thank you so much for tuning into Girl Talk Real Talk. I'm really excited to introduce our guest speaker today, Luz Vidal. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
How you feeling? How you feeling?
Real talk, I'm super nervous, and it's just you and me and this yellow microphone, and I'm super nervous, and I'm shaking.
We're gonna be good. We're gonna be good. So Luz, I call her Saide, so I'm gonna call her Saide because that's how I know you. But I'm not. Saide, you went to Colorado Mesa University, Grand Junction for 2 years, and you were studying political science. How was that?
It was an experience. I learned a lot about, frankly enough, not enough about school, more about me and how I react to people. And Colorado Mesa taught me a lot about myself and how I handle situations and how stubborn I can be and how it takes me twice to learn a lesson. And then I came to Metro for 2 semesters too after I went to Mesa, so I transferred over to Metro.
I know you're a first generation. Right? Woo woo! Shout out to all the first gens. We making moves out here. But I know, so Saide is a pastor's daughter, and you went away from home. So growing up as a pastor's kid and now having all this freedom, how did you cope with that? How did you handle that? What was your thought process through all of that?
Well, see, when I graduated high school, it was a very, turbulent time in my dad's church. So we had just moved to a new church too. So my dad was a pastor in Colorado Springs, and then he got offered a church in Gypsum, Colorado. If you haven't heard of Gypsum, Colorado, I don't blame you. Nobody ever has. It's like a ridiculously small town. We had a stop sign, and that's about it. And my dad's church in that small town was what we call se dividió, so it was divided. And so by the time that I graduated and I was leaving to college, I was ready to leave and not come back. So I was looking at college like a fresh start, and sad to say, it wasn't a fresh start. It wasn't a good fresh start. It was I'm done with church. I'm done with this. I'm out. Thank God. I'm not gonna go out. Basically.
Mom and Dad, who?
And it probably wasn't the best mindset to go into college, but I was excited to not live under a microscope anymore and be able to be me, which didn't last that long because I was away from home, but I was only 2 hours away from home, and my dad became the resident pastor at campus. So that reputation followed me all the way.
Growing up, so me and you grew up Christian, both of our families. And you, being a pastor's kid, I know that, like you said, you're looked on in a microscope. Every single thing that you do, people call you out on it. If your skirt's too short, you're going to hear from the hermanas at church.
They're going to literally pull it down for you.
They're going to be like, then tapate. So I feel how was it growing up in high school and then compared to college? Were you because I know for me, it was very sheltered.
Yeah.
My mom didn't let me go. My mom didn't even let me go to the homecoming dance. Everything was a sin. Everything was looked down upon. So it's I was sheltered. And so when I got to college, it was all this freedom. And I'm oh my gosh, how do I want to do everything because I never had a chance to do it all.
Right. Hey, we helped you go to your homecoming dance. So.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Shout out.
It was actually, so one of the things that I had to learn the hard way was you shouldn't, how does the Bible put it? You can do all things, but not all things are good for you. And I had to learn because I didn't have that freedom under my parents' roof because I wasn't allowed to do anything. There were some things I would just say no to because I knew better than to ask. Prom. That I found a way, but I knew better than to ask because I knew the answer was going to be no.
Yeah.
But I had to learn the hard way that just because I'm allowed to do everything doesn't mean I should do everything. And that's the lesson I had to learn by doing bad things first and then doing them again just to make sure it wasn't just me coming the first time around, if that makes sense. I had to measure my own limitations a lot. And I feel the only way you know your limitations is by pushing them.
Honestly, I feel that's so true because it was so funny. I was just thinking about this the other day. So I was, how we go to church and everybody's talking about oh my gosh, God brought me from this and glory be to God. And you just feel so free and everything. And I'd be yeah, God is good. Yeah, like he's the Most High, but I would never resonate with that passion that they used to have, or that people have, like brothers and sisters have at the church. And I remember when I was dating the little. Dang, I should have brought you out here. When I was dating the guy that was older than me, he was like significantly older than me, and I was like 16. I remember before I started dating him, I was like, God, I want to feel what those people feel when they say like, "You, glory be to you," like you brought them from a long place, and I'm like, well, I grew up in your word, so it's like, I've always been this way. This is all I've known. And I remember praying, bro. I was like, God, just let me go through something so I can understand people and understand what people are saying when they like give you praise and worship and how beautiful it is to be free and everything. And I was like, okay, whatever.
Such a dumb prayer.
Bro, I know.
Look, give me hardships so I can be grateful.
Dude, okay. And I think God was like, this girl don't even know what's about to come. And he was like, okay. So then I started dating that guy that was really older than me, and then I think we he's older, so he has more experience, of course. And he was like trying to try all these things of like being intimate and sexual, and I was just like, nah, like, you know. And I felt so condemned, and well, we broke up like 2 months later, but I remember
relationship here.
Serious relationship, you know, like this is serious business. But I just remember it was like the first time me ever experiencing anything like that. So I felt so guilty about myself. And then I was able to be like, oh my gosh, like God, just free me from this. Like, I don't want any of this. Forgive me. Like, have mercy on me. And then I was able to praise and worship and be like, okay, now I know like God brought me from this to now where I'm at. And like, I'm free from that. And I was able to understand, like you said, like first, for me to understand what my limits are is what I had to push my limits and experience them, and then do it one more time because, you know, just like we're human.
You just gotta double check. We thorough. We want to make sure.
We're thorough here. We just want to make sure. But I feel that for sure. Yeah. I think one of the biggest things that I struggle with being in college is trying to balance my spiritual relationship when I have assignments and readings and trying to keep up with social life, trying to go to the gym still, trying to go to church, be with the youth, like everything. And did you ever go to church when you were out there at Mesa or no?
No, I didn't. So I didn't have that struggle where, because I decided that when I went to Mesa, I decided that I was going to focus on school, and I wasn't in church, and there wasn't a church to go to. Like, there wasn't a presence. Like,
yeah, you guys were far out in the mountains.
No, and there was a tiny small little church, but I just didn't want to go there because I had just come from a small tiny church and I didn't want to go. And then there was always like those contemporary churches that you have at like college campuses, because I think it was called New Wine or Wine something Vine, and it was good, and I would go occasionally, but since I guess I was used to such a different type of culture that I didn't see myself like constantly going there. And honestly, I was so heartbroken with the church that I didn't want a relationship with God at that time. I was so mad at I was mad at God. I was mad at our organization. I was mad at my parents. I was mad at anybody and anything that had to do with church because of what I had gone through with my dad's church before I left home, that I left and didn't think I was ever going to come back. So, backstory. My dad's church, Se Dividió, they had gotten petitions they got signatures behind my dad's back and went above his head to have him removed from the church. Now, our organization has certain bylaws and standards that a pastor can't be removed without cause. They didn't really have any cause, they just had complaints. But most of those complaints weren't even about my dad. They were about his children and his family. So picture this. Everything that you doubt about yourself, everything that you know is a character failure about yourself is being used against your dad's ministry as to why he shouldn't be a pastor anymore. So I was like, screw you, screw the church. Oh, this is perfect timing because I'm out and I'm in college and I can do whatever I want. And I did whatever I want, and I learned some really hard lessons doing that. But that was how my experience went going into college, which probably wasn't the best, but I learned a lot about myself along the way, and it's a process and it's some lessons learned that took about a decade to get over. So the mistakes that I made in college, I'm still paying for right now in my adult life. So it's, I guess my word of caution is being mindful. Yes, have fun, know your limits, but be mindful that what you do now has tremendous effect in your adult future. Because you can come out here, have a good time, do what you need to do, and move on with your future, or you can not do what you need to do and get stuck and have it affect your adulthood.
Mm-hmm.
Hence myself.
Because I know, so there was a time that me and Saidet lived with each other a couple years ago, and you had already, how long was this after, like, college? Like, you had already...
That was, like, 8 years?
8 years after the last time you went, your last semester, right?
Hold on, because that was, like, 2016, right?
Yeah, 17.
17. Then my last semester was, like, 2012, so, like, 5 years.
Okay. Because even... So, talk about, like, what happened, like, emotionally, like, your lifestyle, your community, the people you surround yourself with, after, since you were practicing this, like, you were on your own, but then once you came back, was it easy for you to be like, okay, jump right back into church, me and God are good, like, everything's good, like, God's working in me, God did a miracle, or was it, like, how was that for you?
Honestly, it took some adjusting. It wasn't the same. And if I'm being honest, it wasn't the first time. So I left the church for my college years. And then when I decided to move to the city, I moved in with my sister. And my sister was like, if you're going to live with me, you're going to be in church. I'm not going to have you out here wilding. So I went back to church. And it was okay. Like, it wasn't a bad. I learned a lot in that church. I learned a lot how to be a member of a church and not just be the pastor's kid of a church and actually work for a congregation and on my own right without having to, like, I learned at that church, I learned how to worship on my own and I learned how to work on my own for God out of my own right without anybody telling me what to do. However, it wasn't like a real relationship with God. I was just mainly like just at church, being busy at church, but not actually having any commitment or relationship with God outside of church. So it wasn't, I don't want to say, like, when the first real tribulation came, I left church again. And when you moved in with me, I wasn't in church. I had something went wrong at that church and I got mad again and I left the church. And I was like, whiling for 2 years, and that's when you were living with me and you got to see probably like the worst example I've ever set for anybody. And it wasn't until God has a funny way of teaching me a lesson, and I say funny because he's done it more than once and I should have learned the first time, but apparently it takes me 2 times to learn something. But every time I am struggling or every time he wants me to check in, he'll take my job away. He did it when I was working for my brother-in-law. I was working for my brother-in-law and I wasn't good in church and I was like tipsy-turvy and he took my job away. And I was like, crap, I don't have a job. How am I going to pay rent? So I started praying, I started fasting, and I got a job. And best job I've ever had. And I was like, I'm good on my own. I don't need church. So I stopped going to church. And then a year and a half later, I get fired from that job too. But that time around, it was a really low point in my life because I was doing things that I never thought I would be doing. Like, I was smoking weed nonstop. I'm sorry, Dad. Please don't listen. And
don't cover your ears.
Right? And I was at a very, very low point where I was looking for something to fill the void that I should have already known that only God could fill. And at one point, it got so dark and so lonely where I was like, why am I here? And that's when everything fell in line for me to go and start at the church where I am now. I've been at this church for 2 years, and when I went into this commitment, I went all in. I went cold turkey. I got active in church, and I stayed in church. But it was still keeping busy. It was still just going to church,
going through the motions, showing up,
singing, being like cleaning, like doing things that you go to a congregation and you do when you're active, but still no actual relationship with God at home. And it got to a point where I was like, 300 pounds. And I was like, why am I feeling like this again? Like, I beat this already. I'm in church. I'm not doing any drugs. I'm not out here wilding. I'm not partying. I should be good. And it didn't hit me until, like, I'm still trying to fill a void that only God could fill, except of using drugs and parties. I'm using food. And then that's when I decided to not only change my life around in regards to, like, my diet and exercise and getting healthy outside, but also getting healthy inside. And I started focusing on my relationship with God outside of the church. So my own devotional, my own, like, prayer time, reading time, studying time, and learning time, and being able to commit with God in a way that I haven't ever been able to commit to God in my life in church. And that's under my dad's pastoralship, under anybody else's, because this one, I think, was something that was needed from me to do a full change and be able to commit to church and be happy and stable in church and outside of church, and be able to walk without feeling like I need something other than God. I don't know if that makes sense, but and that didn't happen until I decided to take my personal relationship with God in my own hands. So I feel like at whatever stage of your life you're in, let it be high school, college, adulthood, if you don't take your relationship with God in your own hands, then no matter what you do is never going to be enough. And you're going to feel like you don't have enough time, because it doesn't matter how busy your schedule is. I think I've told you so many times, it doesn't matter how long you read the Bible for, just as long as you make time and like what you read, like really, how do you say this? Que se te quede contigo, and really like digest what you read and make the time the little prayer that you made, make it count. That's enough. So there's always time to have a relationship with God. Doesn't matter how busy you are, just as long as you make the effort.
Yeah. I think when you told me that, it like really stuck out to me, because I remember, like, even for example on Friday, I was like, oh hey, like I want to come to like Bible study, but I can't, like I literally am behind on all my classes right now. And you were just like dude, if you can't, like you just can't, but just make sure that you make that time by yourself at home. Like set a time and be like, okay, phone off, like let me just recognize God. I think that's all it really takes. And I feel like as a college student, it's so difficult. So you're trying to do everything, especially if you're involved, like you're involved with Greek life, if you're in all these clubs and organizations, and then you're trying to exercise and still maintain 8 hours of sleep and then go to church. And like, it's just, sometimes I feel it gets so overwhelming, and to the point where it's like a mental health issue. And then sometimes I feel like, dude, I'll just be in my car and like I just literally just sit there and just breathe and just be still and just be like, God, like you have it all under control. Like let me take this moment. I have like 1,000 tabs open right now, but let me just block everything out and just recognize who you are and thank you for everything. And I feel like in college there's a point where we all reach like I don't want to say depression, but I don't know what other way to say it. Maybe his cousin. Or just like that. Loneliness. Like, I don't know. I think.
Well, it makes sense, because it's like you're away from home. You have no one to rely on but yourself. Like, if things need to get done, it's either you're going to do them or they're not going to get done. Nobody's going to do your assignments for you. Nobody's going to cook for you. Nobody's going to do your laundry for you. And if you don't do it, then it's not going to get done. So it's this self-reliance that you have to become accustomed to that you've never had before. And that makes sense why it would feel lonely. And that's why your own personal relationship with God comes into such a big play at this time of your life. And that's why it's so easy to get lost and, like myself, not take full advantage of the opportunities that are given to you, because you're too busy filling the void and with other things instead of doing what you're supposed to be doing, and still maintain your relationship with God, because it's doable. Yes, you're gonna be tempted, and yes, you may like you may drink, you may party, and you may have regrets about it later. I mean, all my congratulations to those that were able to come to college and leave unscathed. But if you don't, that's okay. Like, I feel like there's this stigma of second and third generation Christians that, like, they have to be perfect because they were brought up to be perfect. But because we were brought up to be perfect, we never got to experience and we never got to see the harsh realities of this world by ourselves, like through our own experiences, which I feel like it's something we all have to go through so that then when we decide to walk with God, it's our decision. It wasn't something that we were, oh, this is just how it is, but why? Oh, I don't know. It's like, oh, this is just how it is. Why? Well, because without God, this is how I am. And with God, this is how I really am. And this is what I should be doing. So... So if you're in college and you fail to be the perfect Christian, that's okay. Get up, shake it off, repent, and keep on walking with God later on. It is okay not to be perfect in college. It is okay not to be perfect at any point of your life because we're human and we're not perfect. What's not okay is just to stay there and to wallow in your sin and be like, oh well.
You fall into like this pit where you just like can't get out of it. I think another thing that we struggle is like our community changes, you know, because especially if like you went away for college, like you don't have your local church, you don't have your friends that are Christ believers, that are Christ followers, and church and relationship with God is different. And I just want to make that clear. Like, you going to church doesn't make you a good person, but not going to church doesn't make you a good person either. It doesn't make you a bad person either. It really solely does depend on you. Like you were saying, like, what are you doing on your own? Like, you only know how much time you make for God at home. You only know you'll be walking in between classes or in your car. Like, it honestly doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be in the four walls of a building called church, where church is just a place where you congregate. And
church is just a building.
Church is literally just a building.
But I mean, not even. Yeah, like that's what we call church, but church should be inside.
Us.
No, we are the church of God.
Exactly.
The people are the church of God. So building, I mean, not saying that you shouldn't go, because I mean, the more you connect with other people from faith, the more it will help you in your own walk. But I'm just saying, don't kill yourself if you can't make it on a Sunday. You know what I mean? Like, don't stress too much about not able to make it there on a Sunday. I'm not saying don't go 6 months without going, but I'm saying, like, prioritize and know that it is okay if physically you're not there every Sunday, but if you make your time for God. I mean, and now in the world, like the age that we live in, you can get fed so much without, like, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
There's no excuse. There's so many podcasts. There's so many preachings. There's so many things you find, like things. There's so many ways you can edify yourself.
Yeah.
So there's no excuse not to have a relationship with God. Maybe there's an excuse not to physically go to some place because of time restrictions or location, but the Bible's always there.
Just open it up real quick. No, that's so true. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think another thing is, like, when you go to a college campus, it's like your whole life you've been surrounded with people who think like you, who condemn you, who keep you accountable for your actions. And then you get to college and it's like, oh no, like, no, I don't do that. Or like, no, I'm good. And they're like, what do you mean? And they look at you weird, or like, even like speaking out, like, yeah, like, I believe in God. It's like, oh, what? And like, people, I feel like in this generation, we talk about everything. We talk about politics. We talk about politics. We talk about abortion. We talk about money. We talk about salary. We talk about LeBron James. Like, we talk about everything. But when it comes to like, oh, like God, like, oh, you believe in God? It's like a shocker. It's like, and then you hear your other friend like, dude, I do too. Like, I go to church too. And you're like, this whole time? Like, we just didn't know this about each other. And it's just like, I feel like a lot of the times, like, where even like I experienced this in high school when I like decided to get baptized, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm tired of being embarrassed of it. Like, I'm just going to own it. I'm just going to own it. And because that's who I am. I don't care what other people think. And as soon as I started owning it, I started noticing other people being like, oh, like, I go to church too. And I'm like, since when? Like, what? You never just what? And it's just like, it was funny because there was times where people would just text me randomly, random, maybe like 3 a.m., 6 a.m., and they'd be like, Lily, can you pray for me, this and this and this and this? And I was like, I'm not nobody special, but like for sure. And it's just like, people recognize who God is regardless, but as soon as you speak out on it and like own it and just be like, you know what, God, like I'm just gonna represent you because that's what you represent in my heart. I don't care what anybody else says. I don't care if you disagree, agree. That's just who I am.
Well, it's because once you own it, you understand that we are the light of the world. And if you're a light and you're letting God's light shine through you, people are going to be attracted to you. And you're going to attract the wrong people, and you're going to attract the right people. By that I mean you're going to attract people that are going to want to come and attack you because there's so much stigma with Christians being judgmental and Christians not liking anybody and Christians being judgy. Mm-hmm. And you're gonna get those people, and you're gonna have to show them wrong, because that's not what Christianity is. Christianity is not hate. Christianity is love, because we are supposed to be like Christ, and Christ is love. So you're gonna attract the people who you're gonna have to prove wrong, mm-hmm. and you're gonna attract the people who are just attracted to you because they are thirsty for God. There is such a need for for Christians to be represented in such a right way that you wouldn't even know just by you telling somebody you're a Christian. They're going to want to know more about it, and because they struggle so much, and they're just so desperate for somebody to give them the living water. Like, not to get too churchy, but they're just so, I've noticed it because at work, when I stopped being ashamed of it, and I started telling people, what are you doing? Oh, I'm going to church today. What are you doing? Oh, I have church today. And I have a lot of church. That's basically all I do in my life is church, workout, and repeat. But once you start talking about God, and once they start seeing God's grace reflected through you, you're going to attract them, and the opportunity to talk about God is going to represent itself so effortlessly that you won't even have to be strategical about it, or like have a strategy to talk about God, because they're just going to come up to you and ask you, hey, why are you so happy? Or hey, what's going on? Or what's different about you? And then you just talk about God and everything that he's done for you that you can now experience because you messed up in college, and now you have a testimony that you get to share with everybody. Mm-hmm. And your dad at the same time. Sorry, Dad.
Hola, tío, ¿cómo está? No, yeah, God is so good, man. I feel like a lot of it is just like history, and everybody's first excuse. Religion brings so much war. Oh my gosh, like I know that, like that was what, 1700, like how long ago was that? I know, and so to this day it brings a lot of argument.
Yeah, but here's the thing, it wasn't the love of God that brought the wars. It was the love of power, that people wanted to use religion to way to control people to execute power. Mm-hmm. And that was all done by man. But we don't want to be like man, we want to be like Christ, and there's no war, like it's love. Mm-hmm. So I get it, but I think there's just the stigma that I think people have used religion so much to just manipulate other people. Yeah. And they forget that it's not about, God is not coming for religion. God is coming for those who are like him. And that is, to be like him, we need to have a relationship with him. And if you have a relationship with him, then everything else just comes so natural and so second, and nothing else is important but your relationship with God. Mm-hmm. Like, again, not to get too churchy, but like the word of God says, seek me first, and everything else will follow.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and it's so true, because a lot of people have that, and it's true. Christians are judgmental. Like, I know I grew up like that until I had to become spiritually mature to be like, whoa, like that's not how God is. Like, I have it all wrong. Like, I've been doing it all wrong this entire time, and it's just like, until I saw what this world was about, not just being told about it, but really experiencing, then I was like, wow, God, like you really are it. Like, this is temporary. Mm-hmm. This is I feel good moment. I feel good for the night, and the next day I just feel empty still. And I knew deep down it's just like the only thing that could fill this void is God's love and mercy, and he's there waiting for me. He's a gentleman. He knocks at the door. He's not going to force me. He's not going to push it down my throat. He's not going to make me. He's going to wait there patiently and be like, Mika, I was waiting for you this entire time. It took you long enough. You know? Right? It took you long enough, but like I was here this whole time. I never left you. I was just here. And I think that's so beautiful because, like, and a lot of the history just really messes up, and like previous generations messes up, like our parents' generations for sure. I think, in my opinion, messes up the view of how people view church now. And it's like, it's a negative stigma. It's like, oh, you're Christian, you're one of those. And I'm just like,
oh, you eat Chick-fil-A?
Dude, don't even get me started on that. I'm just like, wow, I'm over here being accepting and loving of your actions, of your decisions. Like, why can't you do the same for me?
I don't understand that. I think that's one of the double standards that still frustrates me. And I'm still like, you know what? God's still working on me. Like, I'm not, but like, I just, because, how do I put this? Like, you expect me, you say you're all liberal and you're all accepting, but as soon as I say I'm Christian, it's like all this prejudgment that you have about Christians all suddenly applies to me. Mm-hmm. When you're asking me to do the exact same thing that you're doing to me, you're asking me not to do to you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just, it's frustrating.
Yeah, it is frustrating.
But that's why we got to be out here and actually represent who God is.
Yeah.
And that's why, I don't know, but I feel like our generation can do that. I feel like, yes, maybe our parents set us up in a way where they taught us the rules. They taught us the right way. At least my parents showed me by example what it is to have a prayer life, what it is to be a prayer warrior. And for that, I am grateful, because for that, I'm going to use. Yes, there are some generational curses and changes that I need to make. Not saying that, I love them, but I am understanding of the things that I want to change and the things that I don't want to pass on. Yeah. And the things that I think our generation can totally change and transform. Because I feel a revival. Like, I feel it.
Dude.
Like, so many churches are exploding. I just, I want to be part of that. And I feel like our generation can be part of that and help it explode and expand and have this new idea of what Christianity and what relationship with God and what being an apostolic is all about. Mm-hmm. I'm just ready for it.
Dude, I just strongly believe that, because, I think our generation has an open mindset. We don't have a closed mindset. We are considerate of other people who are not like us. We're becoming, at least I've witnessed it, we're not, comparing it to our parents' generation, it's very judgmental of these are the rules. If you don't follow them, there's something wrong. You're going to hell type of thing. And it's just us, it's just bro, who cares about rules? It's more about how are you feeling? Are you okay spiritually? Do you need me to pray for you? Do you have suicidal thoughts? Let's talk about this. Let me be here for you. Let's get closer to God. Let's go and build each other up in Christ. And just because we know God is the answer. And I feel definitely our generation is being less close-minded and more open-minded, and being, instead of everything in this world is a sin, it's there's some things that are good, there's some things that are bad, but just because if you do more bad than good, it's just oh, you're going to hell. It's less of okay, we could work on it. We'll get there.
We're a work in progress.
We're work in progress.
Yes.
And I definitely believe that this generation is just different. It's especially with all this technology going on, we have so much resources in our palm of our hand. We have so much resources, and we could make a movement. We could make a stand. We could make an impact, not only in our community, but in this world. Really show people what God is about, and break all those stigmas, break all those curses, everything that history has taught us, and everything that, it was all corrupt back then, and really show people what God is about, and really be dude, you messed up. Guess what? I messed up too. I messed up yesterday.
I think that's one of the things that it's more, it used to be such a bad thing back in the day, was to share your faults. Oh, you sinned. Let's hide it under the table.
Yeah,
you know what? You're gonna go on prueba. You're not gonna attend church for a little bit. We're gonna sit you down so you can learn about what you did, and then, but we're gonna be hush hush about it. Mm-hmm. But I feel what's gonna cause change, and what's gonna help our generation, or what's helping me, is you know what? Yeah, I messed up. Yeah, that's my testimony, and I'm gonna carry my testimony with me, and I'm gonna share my testimony with me, so that you can see you messed up too, but by the grace of God, I'm still here. The other day, this guy was telling me, he was but you have so much confidence. And I was no, I don't. I'm insecure about everything from my hair to the size of my dress. I am extremely insecure. I don't like to sing about myself. Yes, I sing, but never alone. I cut my hair and bought extensions in the same week. That's how insecure I am. He was like, you don't carry yourself that way. And I was like,
Yeah.
Because I was like, yes, I'm insecure and there's a lot of things about me I don't like. But you know what? I'm secure in my God. And I'm secure in what he sees in me.
Yes.
Enough to, like, express that outward. And
Yes.
It wasn't until I realized that where does all this confidence comes from? And it's not from me because I am super imperfect. I cuss sometimes and I shouldn't, but God's still working with me, okay? I'm not perfect.
We getting there. We getting there. I know my uncle, he always says, yeah, I'm a worship leader, but I cuss a little.
But, like, yeah, and so the confidence that I have comes through the confidence in my God. The confidence that he saw something in me and makes me special. And through that confidence, I feel like I reflect it because it's not me, honestly. It could never be me. Have you met me? Nah. Like, it's all God. And we're still working on it.
And we're still going. And we're still here. And that's all that matters. Honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you did. Because that's how great God is.
Right.
It's just unexplainable. Like it leaves me at awe every time. Every time.
Yeah. He is. It's this grace. It's, what is it? The unmerited, unearned grace of God that is there. Just no matter what you do, it picks you back up.
Always.
No matter how much you fail, you get a second chance. And it's like, it's not to be abused, but it's to be in awe and feel loved at all times, no matter what.
God is so good.
All the time.
All the time.
He is good.
And all the time.
He is good.
Well, thank you so much, Saidet, for coming. I appreciate this so much. Saidet is actually, if we're putting in perspective, I see her as my older sister, to be honest. Like, for real. If I mess up, if something's going on, she'll be the first one to put me on check real quick. She'll be like,
But with love.
But with love, exactly.
With love.
And that's where it is. It's like, you messed up, and she'll give me like, you need to get your stuff together, and then be like, okay, how we gonna do that? Like,
Yeah.
let me pray for you. Let's do it. And she'll check up on me. She'll be like, yo, did you go to church today? And I'll be like, yes, I went to church. And then she'll be like, okay, like, hey, we have this and this going on. Like, come through. And just like that love and support. Still, it's not a shame. It's not a shun, but definitely, I see you as my older sister, bro. And I thank you so much for coming to Girl Talk, Real Talk.
Thank you for thinking of me. I honestly never thought that our talks made that much of an effect on you until you started quoting me back to myself. I was like, oh, you do listen. Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah, dude, honestly, sometimes, like, the other day we were having a conversation. I was like, bro, let me just start the live recording right now. Hold up. Like, we were just, like, in your room just talking. It was just, yeah. I thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, I mean, and anytime you want me back, you know I have opinions for everything. My brother will tell you. I can...
Everything. Well, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in to Girl Talk, Real Talk. But that's the tea for today.
God bless.
God bless you guys.
I'm not waving like people kick here.